Welcome to today's MNC Youth Panels webinar. Today, Grace, Hannah, Yaz, Tamar, Katie, Ethan, Mate, Mohammed and Dylan are going to be taking you on a wild adventure. We welcome you to use our Q&A if you have any questions. Please don't put them in the chat as they will get lost or unread. One thing to be aware of is that we are recording this session. If you want another chance to win an extra prize, ask a super question during this webinar and during the Q&A to win. First, we're going to hear from Tamar, who is going to introduce you to today's theme of our WOW webinar.
What do bees, butterflies, ants, dragonflies and ladybugs all have in common? They are all insects. So what are insects? Insects are by far the largest groups of animals on the earth, having 9,260 different species. Insects can create the biological foundation for all ecosystems. You can find them in the sky, the grass, or even in your own house. We could not live without them.
We, the youth panel, worked with filmmaker Imran Azam and outdoor arts company Walk the Plank to find out more about how to tell a story using the smartphone. Now, with a few simple items, we hold the power to tell amazing stories. We base ours on the topic of litter. Ideas, filming and editing all took place in the day, and the short clips are a visual response to the Working Class Movement Library podcast, Begin the World All Over Again. I hope you enjoy.
The reason that people litter is because they can't be bothered finding a bin or changing their lifestyle.
I have a question for the directors of the short video you've just seen. Grace and Hannah, why did you film about littering?
Sorry, Matei, could you repeat the question, please?
Why did you film about littering?
Littering is something that, for me, I can't speak for Grace, but it really frustrates me because it's an easy fix. It's not something that is, a massive change that the government has to put billions into. Yes, we need more bins more frequently, but it's not one of the big issues, like big companies polluting. It's something that's just a bad habit and mostly just laziness, and it really frustrates me to see.
For me, I decided to do about littering because it's such an easy thing that someone could just make a small lifestyle change, and it's not like you have to make a whole it doesn't cost money for you. It's just whenever you see a bin, just put your rubbish in it or recycle it or something like that. It's a small change which will make a big difference.
I have a question for the creators of the short film, Ethan and Yasmin. What was your inspiration for this film?
We were inspired by the birds we could hear around us and the overwhelming sights that we could see. It really made us want to create a story with a powerful impact. We both have a close connection with birds as we've done bird ringing in the past, so to see how litter affected birds is something we really wanted to address, and that's why we chose to do a bird affected by litter.
"30 Days Wild can change your life." For my 30 Days Wild challenge, I want to observe, conserve, and learn. I want to observe nature in my local area. I want to become more aware of what is around me. I want to be present in the moment. I want to conserve nature through a range of volunteering opportunities, including surveying birds, assisting with a forest school, and recording marine and amphibious wildlife. For my 30 Days Wild challenge, I also want to learn about birds and bugs and beetles, about habitats and ecosystems. I want to build a dry stone wall. I want to learn about nature. I want to become wilder. And you can too.
Sadly, Mohammed can be here to answer his question, and we're gonna have to hand it over to Ethan and Dylan, who will each be giving us an environmental speech.
Hiya, my name's Ethan and I'm part of the MNC Youth Panel, and today I'd like to briefly summarise the importance of stories and how this form of self-expression is the ideal method to share information, enjoy comedy and develop cultural knowledge. To expand upon this, ever since days of old, ideas and philosophies have been passed down generations through stories. This is prevalent within religions, as already mentioned, cultures, and now most commonly through media. The quote, "The media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent. And that's power. Because they control the mind of the masses," said by Malcolm X, perfectly embodies the premise of my message, which will develop throughout, and the statement applies to all forms of media, such as social, print, broadcast. However, within my talk, I'd like to home in on the social aspects of media. Social media, in my opinion, is the access point for the masses to control minds. After continuously scrolling through Instagram, you'll often find different pages with different intents or agendas, some of which you will agree with, others you won't. We often aim to solve a huge issue with a minor solution, and this is a significant problem with social media, which I shall develop upon near the end of my talk. Differing from a negative of this fantastic form of media, it does allow small and large creators to share their story, anyone from a so-called TikTok influencer to the BBC. And this phenomenon is something to be marveled at, as it is completely unheard of for many generations of human, showing how the disparity of classes is ever shrinking. But completely juxtaposing this, social media has highlighted how there is often a discrepancy between what we hear from authoritative bodies to a genuine situation. The environment and its surrounding activism is an example of this. Often we are made to believe situations are improving at a much faster rate concerning the environment, and the intelligent marketing scheme known as greenwashing perpetually enforces that. Greenwashing, if you've never heard of it, is defined as disinformation disseminated by an organisation so as to present an environmentally responsible public image. And after hearing that, I'm sure that you can think of some of your own examples. As well as some of yours you're already thinking about, a few examples could be so-called biodegradable wipes, or a vast range of fast fashion brands including H&M, Pretty Little Thing, Shein, Primark, Topshop, Zara, Tommy Hilfiger, Gymshark and Boohoo. These, for the average person, are commonly bought from or used items, and it's often hard to differentiate between truth and deception. However, through stories in social media, it's becoming increasingly simpler to do just that. For instance, the widely well-known David Attenborough, as you presumably already know, has produced documentaries on a mass scale, appreciating nature and the environment and stressing the importance of its conservation throughout. Smaller examples of similar creators include Phil Torres, who grew up with a great interest in snakes and bugs after living in Colorado, which he later pursued with his environmental science in the Amazon forest. Phil is an advocate for sustainable food sources, sustainable buying, and looking into the history of companies we buy from. Another example is Blue Alice, an ethical vegan that uses her Instagram account to promote sustainability. She is an ambassador for a cruelty-free way of living. Blue Alice shares insights on sustainability, veganism, zero waste, and holistic wellness. However, we cannot all become social media famous influencers. So how can we tell our story or contribute to stories you agree with? Well, there are many ways, and a variety of these solutions are also solutions to the previously mentioned problem of a quick answer culture and social media. For instance, we can donate to charities and causes we agree with. If that isn't attainable for you, you could potentially sign petitions that many of these charities commission. You could perhaps attend protests, showing the unity of the subjects you would be rallying for. Or if this is not your style, the simplest and most effective way to support a movement is striding their philosophies every day. And this truly shows the belief or faith you have in an idea. For the environment, this could be living ethically, avoiding brands that are unsustainable or morally ambiguous, and avoiding single-use plastics. But this is just a brief summary of the importance of stories and how a story leads into an action, and an action leads to change. And thanks for listening. And if Dylan's ready, I'll pass on to him right about now.
Yeah, I'm ready, thanks. You did very well, by the way, Ethan. It was great to say that. Right, so I'm Dylan, and I'm a member of the Manchester Nature Consortium Youth Panel, and I'm going to be speaking about the most contributing factors of climate change, the greatest of their effects, and my beliefs on the way to stop them. The climate change crisis is the greatest threat to the existence of mankind, and if allowed to continue, shall become the greatest mass extinction in the history of the planet. Around 450 million years ago, what's known as the Ordovician mass extinction, Earth's temperatures raised by only 2 degrees. However, about 85% of all known life became extinct. The polar ice caps almost entirely melted, and sea levels rose by over 600 meters. By the end of 2030, Earth's temperature is predicted to have raised by half a degree in the most conservative estimates by the UN. And currently, 38% of all known life is at severe risk of extinction. However, this would be unique in the 4.5 billion year history of life on Earth, as the first time that any species, through abiotic or non-natural factors, were the direct cause of the mass extinction of life on the planet. This extinction cannot be stopped without radical societal change. If previous mass extinctions were akin to murder, this is akin to suicide. But what action is needed? It's important to know that 90% of our emissions are produced by the richest 10% of people, and the richest 1% emit 30 times more of the emissions than the poorest 50% of the population. This means that our carbon emissions are derivative directly of our current society, with one class owning the means of production and another class working to create such produce. It is that class, the richest 10% of people, that owns 200 corporations, and because of that, responsible for those 90% of our carbon emissions, whereas the emissions of the working class are negligible towards contribution to climate change. This occurs because of the capitalist market distribution society, with the destruction of the planet being inevitable if this system continues. Because through market distribution society, incentive is purely based on profit as a result of the material conditions of the upper class, meaning the only way this society can sustain itself is through the merciless exploitation of everything by the upper class to generate as much profit and to steal as much profit as it can. Meaning the destruction of the environment, of which causes profit. Through many industries, take the fishing industry destroying carbon sinks, or another example would be the destruction of the Amazon to create a large revenue of wood, or carbon emissions generated through the fossil fuel industry, being probably the prime example for this. All of which mean that the destruction of the environment is inevitable in capitalism, And the only way to end the climate change crisis is with an end to the capitalist life of lavish lived by the upper class at the expense of future generations. As I said before, what actually is needed? I believe that the best way for this to be done is through a nationwide environmental syndicalist union, for the people to unionize, to organize locally, however a union being nationally or internationally. It could dictate government policy on climate change, to give people a voice, to ensure government policy always acts in their interest. I'd say whatever is important in the minds of the people dictates action. And this holds true more than anything in a democratic society. This union will provide mass education that so desperately needs in climate change, to unify the people for the cause. But so much more could be done than this. Nature-based solutions, that so many people are passionate about, and any other solution that anyone around the country believes could be pressed forward to help the climate change crisis, could be pushed for through this union. For example, an increased biodiversity, to help against the destruction of ecosystems, all of which help taking carbon emissions could reduce the acceleration of the worst effects of climate change. Most importantly, this union controlling action would have the power to create the change needed to end the exploitation of the planet and its resources, and the lavish lifestyle of the upper class lives at the expense of the people and this planet, of the planet and its people. If anyone had any questions, I'd be very interested in answering.
So we have a question which I could answer now, if that's all right with everyone. And the question is, what does holistic wellness mean? And holistic wellness is basically, well, holistic means whole, and wellness is obviously how well you are. So the idea of holistic wellness is about being healthy in every possible way. So as in body, mind, and soul. So a lot of it's got a very spiritual approach to it, and often you'll see like holistic wellness shops around everywhere, but it embodies like ideas from different cultures and from like the Western society of like medical ideas as well. And often people that support holistic well-being are often also ethical and like sustainable and following that kind of idea of life, basically. I think that's the best way of embodying the idea of it. So a while ago, well, now a few months ago, we had the idea, and I believe it was Mohammed's idea, who can't be here today, of creating a competition, which was basically to draw pictures, and I imagine some of you have took part in the competition, and we'll be announcing the winners today. So the over 18 winners include, well, the over 18 winner is Vicky, who's age 34. I don't know if she's on the call, she might be. I don't know if any of them are on the call. And the over 18 runner-up is Hannah, who's age 19. We also have an under 18 winner, who's Zach, who's age 6, and also an under 18 runner-up, who's Ella, who's age 13.
On the 3rd of June, the youth panel teamed up with the Canal and River Trust to discover the life hidden beneath the surface of one of the ponds at the Trafford Ecology Park. In between busying ourselves getting stuck in, we made the video you're about to see to show you what we found and demonstrate how we did it so you can have as much fun as we did.
I'm conducting.
Okay, so Yaz is going to do a figure of 8 in the water with a net to get all the decaying leaves and all the bugs. So she's going to bring it up and put it in the tray. And she's going to put the net in the tray and take out all the big amount of like decaying leaves. So that we can see the animals more clearly and insects. And then she's going to, once she's done all that, we'll take it up there and explore all the animals.
So now we're going to have some questions from the audience. Someone asked, why are insects so important?
Insects are an important part of plant growth and biodiversity. They help with, someone help me out. Thanks, Dylan. Insect expert.
I'm sure you could answer better than me, but I'd say insects are incredibly important, and that's because insects are usually the base level towards ecosystems, whether they're detrivores. Insects fulfill three major roles in ecosystems. They're detrivores, and that means that they can eat. That means that they'll consume animal waste, which stops the infection of plants of which are carbon sink, which take in carbon emissions. And thinking that also reduces infection. Then there's insects will excrete waste products, and they are essential nutrients for all types of plants. No plant ecosystem could survive without insects. Furthermore, the excretion process is also true for carnivorous insects. Then there are herbivorous insects. There are herbivorous insects, which are very important for all ecosystems because they are consumers, and without consumers, ecosystems would collapse. So that's one reason that insects are incredibly important to all ecosystems. So then, furthermore, I'd say that insects are important because they provide biodiversity to a greater extent than almost any species. If we look at bees, bees are obviously a species of insect, and without bees, massive amounts of pollination would be lost, which would mean many plants couldn't reproduce. And as a result of that, there'd be so much damage towards it, all sorts of ecosystems. When you take away something as important as what's known as a keystone species, because they influence ecosystems around them. When you take away something so important as that, entire ecosystems collapse. But the systems of sustaining insects, as in their existence, isn't just important for plants. It's incredibly important for us because our humans are obviously still a part of these ecosystems and tremendously influenced by the world around us and by these ecosystems. So then I'll give a good example that I've seen is, thinking there was there was an area in Africa where some settlers started using pesticides that were destroying insect populations. The problem was the plants in the area had developed a mutually beneficial relationship with the insects, of which it is essential for life, fact of life, that different species will come together, and use their differentiation to be able to fulfill different roles better. When this occurred, all the plants in the area were wiped out from the area as a result of the loss of life in those insects. So there's so many reasons as to why something like insects are important. But the final one that I'll give is that insects were the first type of animal to leave the oceans outside of water. So when that occurred, they were the first land animals and the first flying animals. So all of our land ecosystems have evolved around them as being a fact of life. Everything on the planet is dependent on that. It's been a fact of all life on the planet for over 500 million years. I mean, sorry, over 400 million years. That's my mistake. Over 400 million years. So that is so to take away something as important as insects is to take away everything that our ecosystems have been built on.
Okay, so Ellie asked, for everyone, how did your passion for protecting the planet begin?
My passion for protecting the planet began when I first watched a David Attenborough documentary. I'm sure many of you have watched David Attenborough's documentaries before, but this one, it really hit me how plastic pollution in the sea affected nature and sea life. So that was the first thing that started my passion, was watching that documentary and really looking at my life and the decisions that I was making and thinking, what am I doing and how can I change it to make sure that we still have dolphins that I can go and see, or we still have turtles in the sea. So watching that documentary was the first thing that started my passion, and that's why it's so important that we carry on creating stories to inspire more and more people.
Similar to Yaz, I have basically the same story of watching a David Attenborough documentary, and I feel like most people will be influenced by documentaries, and obviously David Attenborough documentaries is a huge figure. So I don't really have, sorry, I don't really have much else to say other than that I believe that it really hits home that most people can be influenced by documentaries.
Sorry, go ahead, Tamar.
So my passion for it started after I joined my eco club. Then I started getting involved in a lot of stuff. So I also watched a David Attenborough documentary, and I've just been doing things around school, which made me realize how important nature is and how this will be an issue that we'll have to tackle when we're adults.
I'd say like everyone else, and with myself, it's always been something that I've been very interested in when it comes to the environment. It's a subject that I just find fascinating personally, and like obviously documentaries like that I think definitely had a massive influence on that. But it's always been something that I found so interesting. But then just to develop on that, it's with conservation, I'd say that what I've always found, I think what you've got to consider is just how significant we are in a time where the choices our society makes now are going to affect the survival of so much. But the decisions, if our society makes the wrong decisions now, then that's going to affect future generations catastrophically. Which it's such an important issue, is why in something that I've been so interested in, is all under threat. So I'd say with that, that's always been something very interesting.
I'd say my passion for protecting the world was similar to Tamar's. When I was in primary school, I joined an eco council, and from then on, I've just been, especially in secondary school, I've been joining other things outside of school and just trying to make a difference for myself, and then getting myself into the future of that and helping.
My passion for nature came the same as Grace when I was in primary. I probably because of my ADHD, I connected to nature more than I connected to other people. And then when I got older and started to learn that the environment needed more of our help than I thought, I wanted to protect that because of the relationship I had with it.
My passion first started, well, was watching documentaries and stuff with my family. Uh, but I remember back from when I was younger, maybe 12 or something, I used to go on a bunch of walks with my family in the woods and stuff, on trails and everything. And it was just, it's an important part of my life. Those memories that I have with my family, just going on walks through the woods, going on hikes and everything. And it would just be a shame to have all that, just everything there gone.
My passion about the environment is also similar. Like, I really enjoy, like Matei said, like going on walks and then just seeing all the nature around us. And I think it'd be such a shame if we had to lose that because of the decisions we are making, which are negatively affecting the environment.
So somebody in the Q&A section asked, why do you think it is important to have a youth panel and have young voices heard?
I wouldn't mind answering this one. I'd say it's so important for the youth voice to be heard because it's the youth that's going to inherit the world that us that the current world leaders create, and that the current world and its material conditions create. So why that is so important is because we have to live with the choices that we make now. It's but for the majority of politicians, the worst effects of climate change aren't going to affect them, and that's a fact of their life. So all that will matter to them is the stealing a profit. Exploitation of profit. So that can be allowed to continue. However, for the youth, and it's going to affect us by far the most. This is going to be an issue that is going to directly affect us. When we become adults. So this is so it's essential that we fight for a good quality of life. For a good world that it's only right that for what we deserve effectively when it comes to something like this. It's essential that we fight for the right action to be taken. Because it's going to affect us directly. I'm sure a lot of other people can add on to that. A lot of
So if no one has anything to add onto that, somebody else asked, how do you think being on the youth panel helps you protect/raise awareness for the environment?
I'll go again if no one else wants to. So being on the youth panel, obviously we're organizing a lot of very large events such as this, with the webinar, and honestly, it gives people so much influence when it comes to something like this, so much more influence than you would have if you didn't do anything. So, yeah, this is something very significant because I'm sorry. So it's so important to be, to be trying to, a bit like what Ethan was saying, to try and get your story out there, to try and influence the world in as many ways as we can in a positive way. So, and with something like this, it gives you the sort of influence that you just wouldn't have. So being on a youth panel like this, because it puts such a much larger audience than you'd have normally, it's very important to do something like this, and I think it's very good for everyone to go for.
To add on to what Dylan said, like especially with the competition, we had people as young as the ages of 6 entering, and that just shows that even if the impact is small, we're getting people to look outside or take notice of nature. And I think by teaching people the importance of the environment from a young age, they can grow up with that and make better choices.
I'd also like to add a bit onto what everybody has said. For the youth panel, personally, I don't know about the others, but I've definitely gotten some opportunities to help protect the environment and raise awareness for the environment. So it's definitely a great thing to do, just get involved with all of this. And I've definitely gotten involved for the youth panel a lot.
I think that is the end of the questions. Thank you so much for watching the webinar today. We hope you have enjoyed the videos and maybe have even learned something. The youth panel have had so much fun preparing our webinar and organising our competition. We are really thankful for the continuous support of MNC and all their partners, as well as you, the public, for getting involved. The recording will be available on YouTube after this event if you wish to rewatch or share any part of it. We hope you enjoy your day and you're able to watch the rest of the webinars. For one of our last prizes, did anyone spot the object on Tamar's head during the webinar? If so, what was it? The first one to write the correct answer in the chat will be given a prize. We also have a prize for the best question, and this will be given to Neve Johnson. We will be sending your prize, so please could you put your email in the chat. Thank you and goodbye from all of the youth panel.